what I have seen with humans is that we think we know already. We think we know what's right. We think we know what's best to eat without consulting the body. And it does seem that the way we operate is akin to adolescence, where don't tell me what to do, I already know.
I would say a belligerent
A
adolescent.
belligerent adolescent. No, mom, I don't wanna. Or no guidance, or I don't want to guidance. I want to do what I want to do.
But this is what you want to do. No.
Right? Like, so,
yes.
What we don't realize is that we only see 0.0035 of the entire visible light spectrum or the electromagnetic spectrum. So about 99% of the stuff you don't actually see. Meaning that you have these entities, these guides that are helping you along this journey. Why? Because you have an overarching theme that you need to complete. We also often call it our purpose or our mission in life. But because you agreed to forget when you crossed over and passed the veil, you need someone to help you. You need someones to help you. And this is where spirit guides come in. They're helping you along your journey. They'll often communicate to you through goosebumps. Maybe you have a thought and you'll get the chills. Maybe you will see numbers. We call them angel numbers. They communicate to you usually through energy. But here's the beauty of it. If you ask them, because we live in an intention-based universe, they will make themselves known to you however you need to.
Welcome to Call for the Truth. I am LaOta of the Sun, and this is Tarvars of the Sun. And we invite you to join us in our conversation of the importance of talking to your guidance today. Tarvars, before we begin, would you bring us all into Call for Truth?
Well, certainly. And we encourage those who are listening to join us in the call for the truth. Should we call forth the frequency of truth to come forward? Should we call to see the truth in all that we see? Should we call to hear the truth in all that we hear? Should we call to speak the truth, calling forth the courage to speak the truth? Should we call forth nothing less than the truth to come forward into our experience? And so we are here in the truth, and also for those that are watching, we encourage like, subscribe, hit that bell notification to continue in our pursuit of the truth. So today's Call for the Truth podcast, we're talking about amplifying the voice of our guidance.
Yes.
You know, that there's some help out there. We don't have to do it alone. And within my journey, I've noticed that there are some things that are required for us to amplify the voice, where it's there, but I think that most people hear it as a very slight whisper, is extremely dampened, and is muddled based off of a variety of interferences from internal and external. So you mind kicking us off on, first off, the importance of why do we even want to do such a thing?
When we consider that we are part of all things and that the intelligence of all that is connected to us, then the idea of tapping into the greater galactic, cosmic, universal intelligence becomes an available idea. So this is the reason why we would want to operate with more than whatever we've been taught in school, more than whatever our parents have given us, more than what we see on social media. So the clarity that you are greater, part of something that's even greater than that, and that you have access. In the asking is the giving. So this idea of the desire, the decision, the asking is really what's needed. And then it shows up in a myriad of different ways.
So it's as simple as asking, hey, guidance, come through. Or like, what are your thoughts on that? Because some people might interpret it as such.
Well, the asking, it can be understood in many different ways. The asking through your desire to want to be more of who you are, through your desire to want to have greater intelligence to operate with, through your desire to operate above the level of what you see in your visible feel of your world. That is an asking, the desire. The desire is an energetic asking. I want more. I desire more. That is an asking. And so in the asking, as is universal law, there is a giving.
So that, I feel like, it's really hitting even more in terms of what's encapsulated in the asking. Because when I hear you say that, it's a person who they have the desire to move correctly and do what's right for them based off of, and some people may subscribe to this, some people may not, but there is a path that's carved out and mission and objectives for the soul. And sometimes we off, a lot of times we're off. But I have the desire, I want to be correct. And I can see how that is a prerequisite to even hear the voice of our guidance, because
Absolutely.
many of us, what I have seen with humans is that we think we know already. We think we know what's right. We think we know what's best to eat without consulting the body. And it does seem that the way we operate is akin to adolescence, where don't tell me what to do, I already know.
I would say a belligerent adolescent.
A belligerent adolescent. No, Mom, I don't wanna. Or no guidance, or I don't want to guidance. I want to do what I want to do.
But this is what you want to do, you know?
Right? Like,
yeah. So there's the whole thing is that what you are prompted to do is what you decided to do. Now, how you get there and how comfortable or uncomfortable it is depends on your ability to be in touch with what you really want. So most people want to gain what can be gained in the lifetime, but not everyone recognizes that certain processes will gain more for you spiritually, mentally, and physically than other processes.
So you said something that is it's pretty wild when people start thinking about it.
Yeah.
No, this is what you want. The thing that your guidance is telling, that's what you really want.
Right.
So it's showing that there is some part of us that's conditioned to go off track.
Absolutely.
To be distracted from whatever we have agreed, the you on the higher dimensional plane agreed upon. Would you speak about the simulation a little bit? Because we made a podcast about the simulation, check that out. But this idea of how there is a plan, so to say, there is some type of mapping out, and there's a lot of ways to get there, but and how working with our guidance can make that easier.
So what has happened is we don't have respect for the fact that we are an algorithm that we have designed. So we leave one experience and one lifetime, and we have a time in between where we plot out the next experience. We are choosing parents, we're choosing circumstances, we're choosing what will we work on, we're making all of these choices, but we come into the experience and nobody references it. It just all looks like happenstance. Like, I couldn't have chosen these parents. You know,
for real. I wouldn't have chosen none of this. Who did this to me?
Yeah, so it looks like that.
Yeah.
And we are informed from the uncomfortability of no one sharing with us. And the ancients knew this, and they said, you know, this is all a plan, this is all part of it. And so there's a level of harmony that's missed in Western culture, especially in these lifetimes, because we are not only informed by who we've chosen as parents, we're also informed by what we've decided to work on. So many people find confusion in that whatever the mass consciousness is, whatever's on social media, like, I want to be the one with the airplane, or I want to be the one who has 15 minutes of fame, and not realizing that wasn't in your plan. What was in your plan was that you were going to ascend spiritually and save all the children, or work with all the animals, or help Mother Earth. But you're informed by Barbie and the Malibu bus. You know, so you're thinking that everything that's being taught to me is keeping me from my pink, Malibu van.
I know some people who like, I got the pink Corvette. That's what I'm after. No, but that right there, like, where do these thoughts come from? You know, it's as though what I see is that there's been a type of implanting of you pursue that. This is what you
Oh my
should
goodness.
do, where there's some type of outer authority. And like you said, we haven't been raised in an environment where we're taught that there's a higher order of things that you are a part of, that you've kind of intricately created for yourself. So would you speak about like the outside influences that kind of pull us away from that form of connectivity with our guidance?
This is a bigger idea because in the process of the between time when we were deciding what we would choose, we understood that there was a force, an anti-life force, moving to disrupt our ascension process, to stop us from gaining the divinity that is our birthright. It is in our language, it is in our ancestors, it is in every aspect of our world and has been for hundreds of thousands of years. And we knew that when we made our choices, but we forget it when we're born into this experience in our non-remembrance and our lesser understandings. And then we have to find our way back to it. And we do that through our desire and decision to do so. But we're being distracted by the internet of all things. We're being distracted by, all the different addictive things we can eat and do that will keep us not looking towards our exaltation. Like, how is it that we can best serve ourselves by serving our other selves, which is all the rest of creation? If we find ourselves like, I only want to do what's for me. My greed is insatiable. There's never going to be enough airplanes, money, gold, millions of dollars. I'll never have enough, because that's really what I'm being informed from the anti-life experience that's in our world. That really is this lifetime is the test and the opportunity to see through the illusion into what is real, and then move into our own plan that no one else planned but us. And it might include getting married, it might include not getting married, it might include children, it might not include children, it might include being a financial whiz, it might not, it may include crypto, it may not. There is nothing that says it has to do that, because we're being informed by the social media that is what has to be.
Yeah, like this is the typical cookie cutter type of experience that all humans are supposed to pursue.
Right.
Traditional norms, societal norms, and I'm hearing what you're saying is like that's not the truth.
No.
That's what would be considered illusion, correct?
Yes, and so the idea that there's a controller, our 12th dimensional self has matriculated the third dimension, and now sees the entire board. We are in touch with it, but only when our bandwidth is open to the communication. It's almost like a radio channel.
Most certainly, I see it that way too.
We can't hear it if we don't have the desire to hear it.
Yeah.
So it's this idea of if we can, because in our world there are clues that there's something more. We could do things that are not so selfishly oriented, that are more in service, that there is a clue. If we want that, then that leads us to the next place and to the next place. As that broadens our bandwidth, we begin to be able to see and possibly hear, but be prompted through the communication that's coming from our own higher experience of ourselves, which is constantly made available and it always working for us, but we're not always, sometimes we're looking the other way.
Yeah. I want to share the analogy, and some people already subscribe to this perception, but how life is a game. And you said 12th dimensional self is up there. We're here. We're some form of an avatar. And the 12th dimensional self, it has a controller. For me, they even got the little earpiece talking.
Yeah.
And it's like multiple screens. That's exactly what it looked like to me. But then there's like a big group who interface through this one being, right? That's my experience with my guidance.
I think that's quite accurate.
Yeah. And then I see where it's wireless, right? We're in this wireless field, and the guidance is putting in inputs of like, because it, like you say, it can see the map further than what our perception is down here. And, through our intuition or seeing patterns and connectivity through our perception, things arise within us, which is a form of communication. But I see where it's like Bluetooth disconnected, where we don't really perceive the information because of, like you said, there's like clutter and debris. There's outside influences that, going back to the example of we're a receiver or antenna or a broadcaster, and it's like the airwaves cluttered up, so we can't even hear it. And I think that's why it's such a whisper for most of us who do kind of listen. It's like, wait, say that again, guidance. I can't hear you. Say it one more time. Can we make that louder? Right? So would you speak or elaborate on the accuracy of it being like that? Because the reference comes from things that were made in the artificial world, but I understand, like, in the artificial world, they mimic the true reality.
We are always moving against the experience of what we consider ego, which our ego often thinks it's greater than our greater self. The ego thinks it's greater than the one that made it. So, which is kind of like talking to somebody who, thinks they're on a high horse and you're not. The ego thinks it's greater. So the ego says, your consciousness says, tell the truth. The truth will make you great. You'll be stronger. I mean, all the science supports it. And your ego says, but it won't matter to lie this one time to her. It won't matter if you just say this one thing. If it'll make money for you, it's okay. If it'll give you more status, go right ahead and say it. That's the ego talking. It's not that you don't know that you shouldn't. It's that you make the exception because the ego is greater than the creator of the ego. It's like, well, I'm just going to listen to the ego this one time because it's quite convenient. It's quite convenient for me to say this, and then they think nice thoughts about me because I said something untrue but flattering, or I'm going to make myself feel better by doing this action or agreeing to something I'm not in agreement with, because it will get me out of the circumstance of being uncomfortable and having to explain myself. So that's the ego trying to hide behind the truth that it already knows. So it's not always that we don't know. It's often that we choose not to listen.
I think we always know. I think we always know that we know, but would you speak a little bit about the concept of how there's this first thought that arises or the first piece of information, but then it kind of gets overridden by what I think is the ego, this second, third, fourth reinforcement of, yeah, don't do this or do that. Yeah, just do this that one time, as you say.
I think often people think that they're going to hear, the skies are going to open, the clouds are going to, and they're going to hear, move left.
That's how I thought it was. I thought, Hollywood media messed me up because I was thinking hologram projection out the third eye, audible, all of that. It wasn't really like that. But it kind of is, but it's not.
Well, I digress by saying I remember when you felt like I remember in your early days.
My gift's not working.
You saying to me, I'm not hearing anything. And I was explaining to you that you were, but you were thinking it was going to be like television.
Yes.
So what they have done is they have made the truth fictitious.
Yeah.
So it is true that you are in touch, but the way in which you think you will be in touch makes you unable to be in touch because it doesn't work like that in this system.
It creates a heck of a handicap and a learning curve to kind of undo the conditioning.
So sometimes, and in your case, as in many cases of people who I've taught, there's this understanding we all feel. Everybody feels like what it feels like to sit in someone else's chair. And you're like, oh, I think I'll just get out of this chair. This is not comfortable. We all feel, but we want to have the experience that we think that the Marvel Comics people have.
Yeah,
we want that experience. And that it may come, but it doesn't necessarily come to everyone in that way. So by honoring whatever it is, you're somewhere, you feel uncomfortable, and by honoring that, by moving, getting up, leaving, saying no thank you, you may save yourself. So we're all getting information all the time. And if we were into meditation, if we would get quiet, sit on the ground, be in nature, get quiet, ask, there is a level of receptivity that will come in, even if it's not, the way that television has it or the movies have it for you. So there is always the information. You always know when you're walking down the street whether you should cross the street or not because of who you see coming. Now, sometimes you don't cross the street, and then you may have wished you had. Or you look at a car and you think, I wouldn't get in that car. We all know these things. This is not hidden from us. But the way in which audio and visual information comes, it doesn't come to everyone the same way.
Yeah.
And so if we get the way that I taught you and the way that I teach many is get in touch with what you feel first and then ask for what else you want and ask for amplification. And then that is the first thought. The first thought is your technology, your body will be like, I don't like that food. I don't like those people. I'm not getting in that car. And it's always accurate.
I'd like to speak on this a little bit because, again, many people go through that. I want to see with my third eye, or I want to hear my guidance. And I think that the feeling is a very universal thing across all humanity. It's like, I feel. I feel. All right, now stretch into like, what do you feel when you, like, for the different examples you gave, when you step into a space or something's happening in a conversation, what feeling arises within you, because it's a form of assimilating information.
Right.
But through the feeling, and then thoughts occur from the feeling. And this is what helped guide me into the space that I am in now, where I hear it and they're like, go left, do that, don't do that. And it's literally like that. Right. But I do see that there's a tuning to it.
Yes.
And it happens at each stage. Like if it's just the biology, learning to familiarize ourselves with the information that's riding on the feeling. Like, we gotta, like you say, sit, be still, breathe, feel what you're feeling, don't ignore it. And so kind of want to recap different solutions before we go, because I'm sure people are like, well, how do I? And I feel like you've noted some of them, like one, breathing deep, that allows us to kind of move into the moment, the present moment. One of the other things that I'd like to just throw this in the pot and pass it back to you is calling forth correction, because this goes back to what you were saying earlier, where you got to want the truth. You got to want to be corrected. So any other thoughts or builds on this?
With the next thing that I would share is that when we think of feeling, we have a unfortunate misunderstanding of the reverence and gratitude we should have for our bodies, that we are not so thankful that we ride around in these amazing vehicles. So the idea of up your gratitude and reverence for who and what you are. And that's not always easy depending on what we're looking at in our field of vision, but we are greater than we've been told and greater than our world supports. And so just beginning, whatever level, if you're watching superhero movies, be the superhero. Start to move into that space of that is part of our reality. And we are that. So I'd add that.
Well, certainly. So we can wrap up with a call for the truth.
Yeah, so if you will pull a card based on what our conversation was about today, let us know what the question is. The call for truth cards always have an extraordinary response, and we'll see.
Asking the cards to show us the truth we need to hear and see regarding listening to our
things
guidance.
Things are jumping out of the deck.
All right. By the way, if you want these cards, I know you do. You're like, where are these cards at? The link will be in the description. The theme is illumination. crown chakra. Hey, that's where the information comes in through. The search for illumination must begin within oneself. Everything is inside. All of this is an inside job. It is the inner stirrings that manifest.
Could not be more perfect. We thank you all for joining us, and we hope you'll come and see us again in Lakesh and Veritas with honor, respect, and gratitude. Thank you.